Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Shining Fates, make sure you go ahead and check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using the code Omnipoke. For today's video, I'm going over my Battle Styles buy list, a really playable set, so if you are looking to pick up cards for PTGO, or in person, maybe a slightly more expensive one, but let's jump straight into it. As always, I'm going to be segmenting this into the core essentials, cards that I expect to be involved in tier 1 or 2 contenders, or have obvious future potential, and then a believer buy list for more fringe kind of things. So starting off with those core essentials, I think the biggest decision really you need to make is whether or not you want to go down the Rapid Strike or the Single Strike route. It's going to be pretty expensive for you to try and buy both cores of these, seeing as though you need to get a lot of the VMV maxes. If you do want to have those options, that's up to you. But I think possibly just testing this stuff online is going to be better for you, seeing as though there's no pressure to buy these cards straight out the gate. You could definitely think about just sort of trading for one side and then play testing it, seeing how you feel with that sort of archetype, and then trying out the other build. So the good thing about us not having tournaments right now is that you can really take your time with this buy list. So it's not like out the gate you need to buy all these things straight away. Do bear in mind that, you know, if one, either the Rapid or the Single Strike, comes out way better in the format than the other, the price might change from release. So that's the only thing to really bear in mind. I personally am leaning more towards the Rapid than the Single Strike. I believe it fits my playstyle better. So that's just where I'm sitting. But I do believe a lot of these will, you know, both packages easily could end up in tier 1 and 2 contention. So for the Rapid Strike stuff, you are mostly attacking with the VMAX. Empoleon is a nice water type for some coverage, as well as being able to move energies off himself to be pretty efficient as well in those early stages. I have a 2+ here on Empoleon. If you are expecting to build some welding builds of Urshifu VMAX, you may need to get 3 or 4 copies of Empoleon, because it can be a nice turn 1 attack where you attach the Rapid Strike energy, then weld 1 fire to actually get the turn 1 130 off, which is really good tempo for you. So something to bear in mind if you really want to go down the rabbit hole and go full Urshi if you really feel like it. Couple of copies of Karina's Motivation just for stamp proofing alongside Octillery, maxing out the Tower and the Rapid Strike. I mean, I normally try and be quite lenient with the Trainer and Special Energy cards anyway, because they won't break the bank. For the Single Strike, you're going to rely more heavily on Houndoom here, where you want a 4/4 line going on. I've got the lower evolutions in when necessary. Just assume that you'll want the same number or more of the thing in front of it, the thing that's evolving into. You got the 4 jars. You don't necessarily need 4 scrolls. I think 3 will be your absolute maximum in this deck. Tower can be extra draw power. Single Strike energy is obviously incredible, combines with Houndoom for acceleration. And the Urshifu, again, will be the main attacker. You probably could get away with a 4/3 line of this Urshi. I feel the Rapid Strike is more likely going to be a 4/4 line, because you don't only want to Gale Thrust like into the active once, you want to have multiple being threatened so you can continually chain Gale Thrusts, whereas this Single Strike normally sits on board on his own, and you're probably going to be using attacks like the Single Strike Urshifu V's attack for 180 weaved in as well. So you could get away with possibly a 4/3 line here. For the metal stuff, I do think Bronzong is going to be very solid. I don't feel like you ever need to commit a full 4 count to him, even if you are building around like Aurora energies, anything like that. I don't have any Bronzors in here, because we currently have a Bronzor in format that can evolve if you are the player going second on your first turn, which is obviously much better than the one that we're getting from the main set. So no need to worry about getting Bronzors unless you're worried about rotation. Then we have a 3/3 Corviknight VMAX. I again think he's really good synergy inside a Bronzong based deck, so you can be using that main attack there alongside Brave Blade from Zacian, so yeah, pretty solid. Victini VMAX, you don't need the V, because again, the best V is coming out of Sword and Shield. But yeah, seems to be a very good attacker. I want to max out copies of this because it wants to be able to just rinse your opponent early. If you are the player going first, you can get that turn 2 100 plus 120 off if you're hitting into a V Pokemon. So you want to max out copies of this so that you can use your supporter for turn on boss's orders for the most part, so you can hit those targets before they are evolving up. Be it an Urshifu, be it an Eternatus, be it a Centiskorch, any of those things you're going to be really happy to hit straight into for early game pressure. Kricketune V with that stage elation is compatible with a bunch of aggressive decks, giving you some additional draw pieces here and there. I think it's also compatible with Rose Engines if we are going to see that come back in any sort of way. I feel like you only ever need 2 copies of this card, though, to get the job done. So that's going to be fine. And then the just generally good cards, Cheryl for healing, definitely a must if you are going to be building around Bronzong. Could also be used in Urshifu decks and a few other VMAX archetypes. Level Ball, even though there's not many things on this slide that are going to be using Level Ball out the gates, I do think it's amazing for Mad Party, great for Cincino and a few other one-prize decks out there, and very versatile card that only gets stronger as the format develops. EXP Share, again, I'm always quite lenient on trainer cards in general, trying to get as many of them out there as possible, but I do feel like EXP Share can have a place even in some VMAX archetypes out there right now, like Dragapult and Eternatus. I could certainly see it being a reasonable include in there, and then some more fringe stuff as well could be relying on EXP Share also. Rope is just an exceptionally strong card. 4 copies is pretty simple. And Billowing Fan is a new energy disruption kind of option. I've gone 2+. I feel like most archetypes are going to still play the Crushing Hammers in like a 4 count first. The reason why I say 2+ is because we have seen things like Team Yell Grunts be more than 2 copies in certain decks here and there. So you may want to go to 3-4 copies. I don't think there's ever going to be that many special energies in format that you're going to play a deck with 4 Billowing Fan. But that's really up to you. Onto the Believer buy list then. Surprisingly, it's actually more towards the core side than the Believer side in this set. That's just a testament to how good I think Battle Styles is. And then whatever hasn't made it onto the Believer buy list really is truly Believer. I think there will be worse than mid-tier contenders because everything here you see, I think, could have a place in the format or has a good amount of potential for the future. So first of all, another VMV Max combo going on. This Tapu Koko V does compete with the current Tapu Koko V in format. It already has Free Retreat, Spike Draw that can draw you some cards, and a flat 200, whereas Spiral Thunder in random situations can, you know, against a couple of matchups, you can do very good damage, but that's really relying on them already having like their ideal setup and you not being able to punish that in any single way. So I feel like this at most will be a 1-2 count, even if you are building fully around the Koko VMAX. Most people have touted this to go around things like Omastar or greens-based engines to slow people down and try and paralyze them. I think if you are building towards that, you want to go thick VMAX so you don't whiff it for turn 2, because you're already going to be having to fish for pieces with Green's Exploration to get, you know, your stamps going, your Magneton going, that sort of stuff that you're trying to put in here. If it's not Magneton, it will be the Electrode as well. Those sorts of combos are going to be the things you'll see alongside the VMAX more often than not. For other V Pokemon, Stoutland has that very scary second Fang attack that can take an additional prize card. I feel like it only really goes into like Ditto V boxes that are playing Welder or into, yeah, some other like random accelerators out there right now. So I feel like you only need 1 copy of this card. Mimikyu V could find its way into Mewtwo, could find its way into Dragapult, could find its way into a couple of one-prize Psychic-based builds out there as well. Just that dummy doll. I have heard some extremely spicy ideas where you're trying to use this as a hit-and-run style card alongside Giovanni's Exile. I don't feel like that's going to be consistent enough to work to make it so that you have, you know, not just the 4 Lilies Pokédoll, you also have the Mimikyus in here as well. I'd be surprised if that ended up working out, but just something to bear in mind. I still feel 1 is the thing that I feel safest thinking about trying to get just to have in the binder for if ever it does become good. But yeah, more copies if you want to try out the super spicy chain the dummy doll style approach. Then we have some other one prizes going on in the format. We have the ball juggling deck that's going to revolve around Yamper and Mr. Rhyme. Salazzle Weeping Bell for a special condition type deck. Cherim possibly only gets better as the format develops because we get more targets with the Cherim. For now, Bulu is probably the best attacker that we have going alongside it. Primeape, obviously you will be getting your Houndooms and the other single strike stuff on the previous slide. Emboar if you want to build towards Mustard or anything like that. I actually haven't got the single strike Mustard on here whatsoever. I probably should have that on here. If you're getting Emboars, you can think about getting a single strike Mustard as well. Ultimately, I feel like there's no reason to build single strike, so that's why I don't have it here. I just wanted to mention that Emboar is an option. Bruno, if you're getting the Primeapes, certainly are worth thinking about. Not much else for Bruno. He is a shuffle draw 7 in one prize decks, but he is kind of sketchy in those opening turns. I think possibly better than Marnie in one prize decks for the most part. So something to consider. Right now, there aren't too many one prize decks that need this, seeing as though Mad Party and Blounds probably won't have the space or need to play Bruno whatsoever. Phoebe is decent for a couple of VMAX decks. I think it's kind of fringe for a lot of them. You need to already be playing Eldegoss if you actually want to beat some of these annoying walling decks. So that immediately rules out Eternatus. Things like Center Scorch and Victini, they can already be playing Reshizard and Volks if they really want to get over these annoying walls. So Phoebe only really goes into like Rose engines that are already playing Eldegoss. So that's kind of fringe for sure. Mustard, I don't think is the best way to be playing Rapid Strike Urshi right now, mostly because of the supporter rule change. Simply in a lot of your games, he just won't be useful, and then you've warped your deck in a very awkward way. But if you do want to build around him and get that turn 1 150, it is a powerful board state to build, so there you go. Tool Jammer, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on this one, seeing as it does sort of compete with Scrapper, but it's kind of more narrow because you need to be playing a deck that doesn't need tools, but still has space for tools and the consistency to want to put Tool Jammers in, especially because you're worried about certain tools, so it'll be a math fixer for getting rid of things like Big Charm, or keeping you out of range if they are using, Vitality Bands or Rusted Swords, anything like that. So very, very specific niches here compared to Tool Scrapper. The only real upside is that you can establish it pre-research or pre-detonate onto your attacker, and maybe it sticks on board for a couple of turns. It's yet to be seen that there's many decks that can actually fit the Tool Jammer in, though, right now, so that's why it's more on the Believer side. Energy Recycler at the moment only really goes into Frostmoth and Cherim, possibly even Rillaboom as well. All of these are kind of lower tier things. You may think about getting one of these if you are a Rillaboom Eggrow player. And then finally, we've got Mienshao as just another one prize attacking kind of deck. You'll probably want to get the Octilleries and the Rapid Strike Energies if you're building Mienshao. And then, this guy's just going to hit and run behind Dolls and Altarias, that sort of stuff, possibly even the Mimikyu if you really want to. So yeah, that's a real quick and dirty buy list for you guys. Let me know what you guys thought. Which side are you going to be falling on? Are you going to be a rapid or a single strike player? Are you going to try and get both? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know if I missed anything. Realistically, if there's anything that you haven't seen on the Believer buy list that possibly was in our set review or wasn't on the set review, it means that I don't think they'll be in mid-tier contention. I think they'll be probably worse than that. But keep on believing, anyone who's trying to build those decks. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time for another video. Cheers.